Recently, massive drama has erupted the Roblox community, exposing two of the most controversial influencers. Captain Steve has been accused of flirting with a minor at 20 years old, while Eprox, his friend, has come under fire for supporting the loss of millions of lives in Palestine. The situation is huge, and it's important for people to know the full story. Let's start with Captain Steve. He's been accused of inappropriate interactions with a 16-year-old while he was 20. This all came to light when Parlo, a well-known Roblox YouTuber, called him out on Twitter, exposing the allegations. This evidence has caused a major backlash in the community, and the situation only gets worse when you look at Steve's connections with other controversial figures. But we'll get to that part later. For context, Steve, now 21, and Simone, now 17, became friends when Simone was just 12 or 13, while Steve was 16 or 17. She even confirmed this in a recent message about the situation. The reason this is important because it raises serious concerns about their age gap that existed essentially when Simone was just turning into a teenager. One of the biggest red flags about this situation is that Steve, as an almost adult, chose to befriend a 12-year-old. A 17-year-old high school senior being friends with a 12-year-old middle schooler is not normal. There's a massive difference in emotional and social maturity between those ages. However, this situation goes beyond just an alarming age gap. It goes into Steve's repetitive weird behavior around those minors in question. With Simone, Steve made numerous flirtatious comments directed at Simone on Twitter publicly. The accusations against Captain Steve are supported by multiple tweets across the years that reveal his questionable interactions with Simone. Even if these were meant as jokes, they are still completely inappropriate and given the age gap and context of their relationship. For example, in March 19th, 2024, Steve replied to Simone calling her Pookie, Ayo, a phrase that is often used in a flirtatious or affectionate way. This alone might not seem alarming, but a pattern of messages over time makes it a lot more worse. In June of 2024, Steve left multiple public comments under Simone's post, saying things like, "Headless Simone looking so hot," "Yum," with a weird drooling emoji, and "Love heart eyes amazing." Calling a 16-year-old hot and saying yum in response to her posts is not appropriate behavior for a 20-year-old guy. The public nature of these comments suggests either a complete lack of awareness or a disregard for how inappropriate this looks. Even more concerning is that Steve's interactions with Simone go back even further. In November 2022, when Simone was just 15, Steve tweeted her name alongside a drooling emoji. While this might seem minor on its own, it reinforces the pattern of fixation and attention he had been giving her for years. Some people may try to defend this, but there is absolutely no excuse for sending flirtatious messages like that to someone under the age of 18. But Simone isn't the only minor Steve had interacted with in a questionable way. Another person is Quebec, who was just 14 years old at the time, while Steve was 20. In July of 2024, Steve publicly tweeted about Quebec, calling them so hot while replying to artwork that is completely unrelated to them. This is yet another example of Steve making questionable comments about minors' appearances. Just like with Simone, there was a clear age gap considering they pointed out their age in their bio. Yet Steve still chose to flirt and compliment them in a way that's completely inappropriate for an adult. And yet again, another minor has been brought into this situation. Kyle, who's currently 15, but may have just been 14 at the time, was also on the receiving end of Steve's comments. On June 30th of 2024, Kyle posted a picture of himself showing off his hair, and Steve responded with, "That's true, you look hot," with the eye mouth eye emoji. This further reinforces a disturbing pattern. Steve has repeatedly made inappropriate remarks about minors' appearances publicly and without hesitation. Whether it was Simone, Quebec, or Kyle, Steve's behavior remains consistent. At this point, there's no denying it. This isn't just a coincidence or a joke. It's a repeated issue. But it doesn't stop there. Steve has also engaged with explicit content on his Twitter account, despite knowing that the majority of his followers are underage. On October 1st, 2024, Steve responded to an W artist post saying, with "You look so hot, oh my god," with a blushing face. Following day on October 2nd, 2024, he continued interacting with the same NSFW account, replying to a message that they said, "They're so hot," or something along those lines, and Steve replied with "just like your art." What makes this especially alarming is that the artist in question actively creates NSFW content. By engaging with their posts, Steve isn't just associating with inappropriate material, he's publicly endorsing it. making it visible to the young audience that follows him. And this isn't an isolated incident. Steve has a documented history of interacting with pornographic accounts, further proving that this is a pattern, not an accident. Whether it's making questionable comments towards minors or engaging with explicit content in a space where children can easily see, Steve repeatedly ignores boundaries, further pointing out the disturbing pattern of his behavior. Steve's behavior on Twitter is concerning, but it pales in comparison to his actions within his Discord server. There, he openly interacted with minors who had just turned 17 that were making inappropriate comments such as claiming that they were horny, and Steve responding, stating that he, at 20 years old, could make them even more hot. Adding to the disturbing nature of this environment, individuals like Luca123RT, a known predator who went after a 14-year-old when he was 19 and admitted numerous times, not just outside of the server, but admitted to these actions numerous times inside CaptainSteve's server. Despite all of that, he was still accepted into the server with open arms. Quite literally, actually. Captain Steve's response to this whole situation doesn't make this situation any better. In fact, it arguably makes it even worse. His response attempts to downplay the accusations, but ultimately it makes the situation worse. Simone confirms that she and Steve had been friends since she was 12 or 13 and he was 16 or 17, further reinforcing the concerns about their age gap. She repeatedly claimed that Steve's flirtatious comments were just compliments and satirical jokes, while also excusing his behavior by saying he has autism and struggles with English, which does not justify his repeated inappropriate interactions with minors. Instead of directly addressing the allegations, much of the response is focused on attacking Parlo, the person who initially exposed Steve, accusing him of doxing and misinformation. Steve himself denies the allegations, claiming he has lost motivation and friendships, but fails to explain or take accountability for his past actions. Rather than providing a clear defense, they shift the blame, attempt to silence criticism on Twitter, and ultimately reinforce the disturbing pattern of behavior that was initially exposed. As a personal note, I'd like to mention how Steve's whole response to the whole situation was basically word for word the same excuse that the self-admitted child Potamer used when trying to justify his actions. The response only included the incidents regarding Simone. No other behavior was mentioned. They later attempted to claim that Steve was innocent because Parlo took down all his tweets calling Steve out, and this could not be further from the truth. I had a call with Parlo and he clarified everything that went down.
How did your drama with Captain Steve start? Because he's been claiming this is over some drama from over 3 years ago over some tier list.
Well, you see, the tier list point he keeps using against me is an ad hominem he uses to deflect accountability away from himself. The situation actually happened over 3 years ago, soon to be 4, as of November the 21st, November 2021. And it's about some stupid RTC tier list garbage because some guy made like a post on me and I disagreed with it. And then Captain Steve over here came in, and then his mutuals came in, and then his fans came in, and they all started dogpiling me, like throwing like words and like insults at me, consistently harassing me when I was literally like a minor. I was 16 years of age at the time.
They tried using the excuse that you deleted all your tweets about the situation as an excuse to defend Steve. So why did you take down your tweets about him?
Well, you know, the RTC isn't really renowned for having the smartest people inside of it, actually. So they could clearly see in my bio, it says, tweets delete periodically, just like with Ruben Sim's account, because a lot of their fans have actually been on record mass reporting and getting my old Twitter accounts allegedly suspended. So I basically mass wiped any tweet talking about the situation because Simone had actually mass pinged her entire Discord server to report my tweets and basically get it taken down. So she's basically like encouraging hate raids, mass report raids on my accounts, trying to silence me and trying to take it down.
If you thought the situation couldn't get any worse, I assure you it can. Roblox Twitter influencer Eprox, who was previously exposed in a video by Parlo for making disturbing remarks about wanting all people, is now defending Captain Steve. It's deeply concerning that they appear to share similar views. In this tweet, Captain Steve responds to a post asking who someone would choose to throw into liquid nitrogen, a substance that causes near instant freezing and fatal tissue damage upon full exposure. Rather than treating it as a hypothetical or a joke about fictional characters, Captain Steve explicitly states every Israelian, making it clear that he is advocating for harm against all Israeli citizens. This statement goes beyond casual internet banter. It expresses a clear desire for harm and mass violence against the entire population based purely on nationality and ethnicity. Given the context, this could be interpreted as a call for as it involves advocating for the mass execution of Israeli individuals through an extremely cruel method. Additionally, this kind of rhetoric dehumanizes a group of people, reducing them to a target for extreme violence. Regardless of personal political beliefs or opinions on international conflicts, wishing death upon an entire nationality is a form of hate speech and incitement to violence, which is generally condemned on most platforms and in legal frameworks. Steve's attempt to make light of such a statement with an emoticon further reinforces the notion that he is casually endorsing extreme harm without any regard for the real-world implications of such speech. This isn't just an offensive joke, it's a statement that aligns with the real dangerous hate-fueled rhetoric. The situation is actually insane. Captain Steve repeatedly made inappropriate comments towards minors, and rather than taking accountability, he and his supporters continue to deflect and make excuses. He openly interacts with NSW artists and promotes it to his audience, whom are mostly children. Captain Steve also allows the known pedophiles in his servers, such as Luca123RT and genocidal maniacs like Eprox, who have a huge history of making hateful and genocidal remarks. Him defending Steve only makes this whole situation even worse. Steve's statement about throwing every Israeli into liquid nitrogen is not just an offensive joke, it promotes dangerous and violent rhetoric. Instead of addressing the serious concerns raised against him, Steve and his defenders are attempting to downplay the whole situation and shift the blame onto Parlo. Like and subscribe and share this video with everyone so they're really made aware of this situation.